Hey everyone, it's Mega Champ once again. So, obviously, this is going to be another Full Thoughts video from me, considering that I did finally finish Final Fantasy XVI here, if that somehow wasn't already obvious. But it would be a little remiss of me to just ignore everything that's been going on since I put out my last video, which was 2 months ago after the summer gaming event season. Yeah, it's unbelievable sometimes how much shit can change and how much bullshit, because that's what it is, um, ends up happening and ends up going on. Now, could I sit here and shoot and rant and go on a tangent about it? Yeah, I'm sure I could. We all seem to know how well I'm good at doing that, but I'm not going to be doing that. I've said everything that I'm going to say in YouTube posts, and there's really nothing left or else to be said at this point. These companies, if there's one thing that has been abundantly clear and abundantly obvious, and it should have been obvious before, and it's not that it wasn't obvious, if I can talk properly. It's just the fact that, you know what, at the end of the day, these motherfucking companies only care about one thing, and that's number go up. That's it. That's all they give a fuck about. That's all they have ever given a fuck about. And that's all they will ever give a fuck about. So they don't care about you. They don't care about some random like me. They don't care about literally anybody else. Boycott all you want. That's not going to do shit. I'm sorry. It's just not. And, I mean, you can call it out all you want to, which I have been ever since it happened, and they still won't give a fuck. So this is just the situation. I have until 2028 to be trying to figure out what I'm going to do here and what I personally will be doing in terms of um, video game type stuff. I'll let you know when I know, or I may not even do that. I'll just do it because nobody really cares what other people do, so you really shouldn't care what I do, and I shouldn't care what you do. It's up to the preference of the individual at the end of the day. It's fucking bullshit. As far as I'm concerned, Sony can kiss my ass. I will not be buying PlayStation 6 unless things change or unless digital games are treated differently, which is not going to fucking happen. Let's be brutally honest here. And that's just it. That's just it. So, fun. So fun. But I did finally finish Final Fantasy XVI after spending over 100 hours in the game. Yes, that long. Don't know how it's not obvious at this point that I take longer to beat a game than anyone else. It's practically normal and par for the course. But as usual and as normal, as per broken record of me, this is my personal feelings, thoughts, opinions, and experience of the game, and my full thoughts on the game. Your experience, your opinion, everyone's experience and everyone's opinion is going to be different. You can feel however you want. Everyone can feel however they want. You can have whatever opinion you want. I can have whatever opinion I want. And that's really all that needs to be said. We all know how this goes. To the best of my ability, with as minimal spoilers as possible, I will be talking about the story of the game, the characters of the game, the world and the setting of the game where the game takes place, the graphics, and the gameplay. I am by no means an expert. Nobody is really an expert. At least not really, because at the end of the day, it's mostly an opinion unless it's an actual full technological deep dive or whatever you want to call that kind of stuff that happens and is done. So unless it's something like that, It's all just opinionated at the end of the day, so not much else to really say about that. I do have to briefly mention here, I did also play the DLC of the game, Echoes of the Fallen and the Rising Tide. And I did play the game on action based, which is basically the normal mode for the entire game, all of it. I mean, all of it. And including DLC, which is going to be important later. Just so you know. Just so you know. Despite bullshit. Oh boy, you think, as we all know, I'm just getting started. But luckily, it's basically at the end. So you won't have to worry about it until then. Mostly, anyway. So the story of the game. If you remember when I did the demo of the game and fucked up tremendously doing that, and it took me way too long to do post commentary for that. Yeah, if you remember when I did that, it's basically the same thing because it was just the demo version. But to give as few spoilers as possible, it initially begins with the story of Clive Rosfield, obviously this guy right on the screen. As he is attempting to find and get revenge on and kill the murderer, as I say that in air quotes. Yeah, there's a hint for you. Although it's kind of obvious if you remember the demo, of his brother Joshua. Obviously, there's a lot more to it than that. Again, like I said, if anyone remembers when I played the demo. Other things I can kind of talk about here that doesn't give too many spoilers is it is also about a bunch of different regions, quote unquote, of the game, or kingdoms, empires. The stuff in the far distant past during medieval or, fantasy period, Final Fantasy. Imagine that. And their wars with one another over ownership and control of large crystals called mother crystals. Yeah, they brought the crystal stuff back, which isn't the worst. It is kind of a traditional thing from Final Fantasy. It's in a bunch of them, or at least some of the first couple and some of the later ones too. As the play, and then their control over the mother crystals is because of a plague known as the Blight that's spreading across the world, killing it and eliminating places to live and nature along with it. As long as magic, because magic can't be used in areas of the Blight as well. Of course, magic is in the game. What'd you expect? Each region mostly contains an icon, which is also, the summons and the other games. And those that control the icons, because they can literally turn into them, which are known as dominants, kind of a Persona type deal, except on a kaiju level, huge monster level, Godzilla level, whatever you want to call it. Some are obviously treated better than others, but mostly they are treated as weapons of war, tools to be used, and just kind of like monsters. That's so great. I mean, it's a part of the story. Not really sure what else to say about that or what is to be expected here. Eventually, after betrayal in the region of the world that Clive is from, Rosaria, Clive is freed from his shackles of being a bearer, quote unquote, which is basically people that can wield magic freely without the use of crystals, by a man named Sid, because of course there's a character named Sid in the game. That's a staple of the Final Fantasy franchise at this point, and he's a lot more important in this game and most other games outside of like FF7, who's a main party member, if you have been keeping up with the FF7 remake trilogy stuff. Some other characters known as Sid are important, but none are like full-fledged important party members, or even really important characters. But this is definitely the case in this game. There's a lot more to it than just that, obviously, but I'm not going to go into everything because that would be massive spoiler territory and you wouldn't play the game. So I'm not going to be doing that. Experience it for yourself if you so choose to do so. You don't really need knowledge about Final Fantasy franchises because every game is its own sort of world and experience. Sometimes there are references to other games in the franchise or even like nods to it or Easter eggs in terms of like enemies and stuff. Like staples of Final Fantasy games for the most part are always going to be, the Moogles, the Chocobos, the Cactuars, the Tonberries, the Malboros or Morbles in this game, if you remember that demo boss, and so on and so forth. Cactuars are not in Final Fantasy XVI, unfortunately, but hopefully you get the point here. There are staples and there are bosses that are in some games that aren't in other games, and so on and so forth. Hopefully you are getting the sort of picture and idea here for the most part, I suppose. There isn't really much else for me to say in terms of the story without massive spoilers, obviously, other than to give my sort of opinion and my personal feeling and thought about it. Honestly, I loved the story in the game. I don't know why people gripe and complain about it. I loved all of it for the most part. I mean, everyone's going to feel a different way. I don't care, honestly. I've never cared and I'm not going to care. But I loved the story for the most part. Most of it was pretty fucking great. It was pretty fucking great. It really was. Really damn good, and I have nothing to complain about it. There is one thing I will admit to you, which I am literally about to do so, in terms of the story, and it's something that happens after the Titan Icon boss fight, which isn't that massive of a spoiler, and I didn't even tell you anything about it. So there you go. That's barely a spoiler. Um, which is that the story does honestly kind of take what I would call a bizarre and weird turn that's kind of out of nowhere. Mostly that didn't make a lot of sense considering everything else that had happened up to and prior to that point. I mean, it was a completely bizarre choice and mostly didn't make sense. But despite everything and despite what it did and what happened, eventually it was made up for. You'll know it if you play it for yourself. You'll know it when you see it. It was made up for. It was just a very weird turn and still a strange choice, honestly. But this is definitely one of those it is what it is situations, I guess. Just really weird that this is what they did and this is what ended up happening. I don't know. I didn't write it. But it was definitely weird, but it was quickly made up for. Still don't understand why that ended up happening and why that decision was made, but what can you do? What can you do? So when it comes to the DLC stories, which I'm not really going to talk about that much because there's not much to say about it. The stories in the DLC, Echoes of the Fallen and Rising Tide, are mostly good as well. Not much to say about them though. Echoes of the Fallen contains a tower. Gee, that sounds familiar. Yeah, it's very near like, which I suppose, depending on the context and how you say it, can be taken as either an insult or a compliment. And it's very near like and has a lot of near vibes, especially because of the enemies in said tower. Look, as far as I'm concerned, this is not an insult. At least coming from me, it's not, because it's a compliment. I fucking love Nier. Love it. Give me Nier 3. Where the fuck is it at? Anyway, Rising Tide is mostly about Leviathan, which is only mentioned once in the main game, and he's called Leviathan the Lost, so it goes more into detail about that, and about the clan and the tribe associated with that, which is also relatively good. The stories in the DLC is fine. That's not the problem with the DLC. You getting the hint? There's more to say about the DLC later. And there's nothing else for me to really talk about in terms of the story. I really loved it. I did. I had no complaints about it. Not one. Not one. Sorry. Just my feeling and my experience. So there you go. The characters of the game, there are mostly four important ones. Clive, obviously, he's the main character. Jill, Clive's friend as a child, if you remember her from the demo. Joshua, obviously, his brother, again from the demo, which the game makes you think one thing. Yeah, about that. I'm not saying anything more, just kind of a bit of a hint there. And of course, the guy that I talked about earlier, Sid, the one who rescues and frees Clive. You don't really see him until a part after the demo ends, but, you know, he's an important character. And really, the only other important thing is best doggo, Torgal. Torgal's the best. One of the highest points of this entire game. Best dog. Best doggo. The cat games became a trend, and now it's the dog games. What's next? Bird games? Oh god, I just gave people ideas. Not the point. Most of the dominants, the characters that wield the icons, the summons, are obviously the most important characters, and some are outright assholes. And the game does a pretty great job of making you hate them. That is their job. Good job. I do have to talk about one of the specific characters a bit. I will mention him by name. That's all I'm going to say, so it's not a massive spoiler. You do see him for a bit in the early game, too, after the demo ends, so... Which is Barnabas. About him. Odin's dominant, the guy who controls Odin. Okay, here's the thing about Barnabas. The game portrays him as way too OP, which stands for overpowered. It can stand for a lot of things, but in this case, it stands for overpowered. So when you hear me say OP, I mean overpowered. That means as in they're way too strong. Way too strong. Now, here's the thing about this specifically. Admittedly, and obviously, when you play more of the game and get through more of it, Clive is very OP as well, especially as you progress in the game and he gets more things. There's a hint for you. I don't know. I just kind of felt like it went way too far with Barnabas specifically. Now, obviously, it's not like Clive doesn't overcome it. He does. So I suppose in order to counteract something that is OP, you have to present it with something else that is OP. So technically speaking, it does make sense. I didn't say it didn't make sense. I just kind of felt like, and still feel like, Barnabas was a bit too OP. It went a bit over the line if you ask me specifically, because I'm sorry, Odin is not some kind of impossible boss. In the series' franchise, in the franchise of Final Fantasy, it's gotten its ass kicked on multiple, more than one, more than two, multiple different occasions in other games in the Final Fantasy franchise. It has. It does. Final Fantasy IX is the most obvious. It is what it is. Again, I guess. Whatever. I'm just saying that when it comes to Barnabas, it felt like it went over the line in terms of him being OP. Just how I feel. Most of the character development is actually really well done in this game, especially for Clive, because that makes sense. He's the main character. But even the other characters, and yes, even the side characters, get extremely well done character development. There is one thing you have to do, however, in order to see said character development. You have to do the side quests. All of them. Yes, all of them. Oh God, not side quests. I'm the type of person who is perfectly okay with doing so, especially when it does stuff like that and gives you more lore, information about characters, character development, so on and so forth. Which it does, and it does it very well. I'm just letting you know, if you want character development, you're going to have to do all of the side quests. Sorry, that's what you're going to have to do. So if you don't like doing side quests, you're not going to get all the character development. I'm just letting you know. I love doing side quests because I like having games last as long as possible, especially with things that are going on right now. It's almost like my 2 to 3 year backlog is a good thing. Not the point. um, yeah, I don't have any other complaints about the characters. They are all great, honestly. Even the villains and antagonists of the game. They make you hate them, which is what is supposed to happen. You are supposed to hate them. Good job. Good job. And yes, I mean it. Great job. Love the characters. There wasn't a single one that I felt like was overbearing or anything like that. Nothing else to really say about the characters either. Just like there's not much for me to say about the world and the setting of the game, because it's mostly a quote-unquote traditional Final Fantasy-esque setting. In other words, it takes place in a fantasy setting. What a shock. In the far distant past without modern technology, like cars, airships, mostly, communication, and just modern technology in general. Phones, that stuff. All the stuff we take for granted now. Castles, kingdoms, swords, no modern warfare. Like, I don't think there's any guns in the game. There's stuff with gun-like mechanics, but not actual guns. And so on. Or if there is, I don't remember it. Or it wasn't or it wasn't prevalent enough for it to be all that important. Valisthea, however you want to pronounce it, is the world and region name. Despite what I just said above, there is some things that are kind of like modern technology-esque, which is kind of alien to everyone in the world, and it's, the Fallen, which is what they're referred to as in the game, which is like this alien mech-like energy sword, lightsaber-esque like technology. Yeah, that's the closest you're gonna get to modern stuff. And there's more to it that is kind of shown to you in the first DLC, Echoes of the Fallen. You getting it yet? With automatic doors, lifts, elevators, so on and so forth. And some of this is important to the story as well. But that's about it in terms of like modern technology-esque stuff and alien-esque stuff. But yeah. I mean, I can't really say too much more without delving into spoilers anyway, and I don't want to say too much anyway in case you want to play and experience the game for yourself. Because there isn't much else for me to say about the world in the setting. I did like it. I do kind of like that it was a sort of return to form, so to speak, and it returned to its roots. Because that is what Final Fantasy was based off of. Especially since most of the other Final Fantasy games before this was more modern settings and modern technology, so to speak. So it was kind of nice to return to that. Feel however you want. I liked it. But yeah, just the way I felt about the specific modern and setting. As I continue, as someone is now mowing the grass, can't do anything about that. Sorry, it is still summer. Um, Let's see, where did I leave off? Oh yeah, graphics. So the graphics of the game, I'm not really sure what anyone was expecting here. It's modern AAA graphics, and I'm not saying, and I've never said, everything has to be AAA, and even indie studios have access to tools now that can make their games look AAA without having the oversized budget accompanied with that. However, as I have also said in the past, HD 2D isn't exactly the answer either. You have to find a balance. You know, you can't just lean one way or the other. There has to be a balance. What a concept. What a concept. I know, quite the concept, right? I mean, if you really want to know how I feel, I loved the graphics. Sorry, I just did. It is a bit darker too in order to fit the theme and the setting. If you think it's too dark or unbelievably dark or not bright enough, increase the brightness. Duh. Why did I have to tell you this? I don't know what else you want from me or want me to say here. I'm not the biggest expert on graphics. It just depends on the game and what the game is trying to go for. Each situation is different. Again, shocking concept, I know. Hold on a second, sorry. Sorry about that. No idea anymore. Anyway, oh well. Let's see here. So this is where oh boy, remember what I said earlier? Did you remember? Did you remember? Gameplay. Oh boy. Gameplay. This is where most of my complaints and criticism are going to come in. But it's only for one specific reason. It's not because the gameplay was shit. I can tell you that right now. So we're going to be positive first, because despite what everyone thinks, I'm not an overly negative person. It's just brutal honesty. There's a difference. So it's an action RPG, obviously. Obviously. Boy, I just love how everyone is complaining about Final Fantasy being mostly an action RPG now. Wow. That's so good. That's so great. It's so hard to figure out what to do in that kind of situation, you know? Instead of all the fucking whining and bitching and moaning and complaining. Oh, wait, I know. Here's an idea. Don't play them. Why is that so hard for people to understand? Another mind-boggling concept. Don't play it. If you don't like it, the franchise being action RPG now, don't play them. Don't play them. I don't want to hear it. Turn-based barely happens outside of Persona anymore. And don't give me the Expedition 33 bullshit. I don't want to hear that either. Not everything is Persona or that other game I just mentioned. Gee, imagine that. What another shocking concept. I fully expect Final Fantasy XVII to be action-based as well. If it's not, oh boy, is that a choice. If you really have that much of a problem with the Final Fantasy franchise being action-based now, don't buy it and don't play it. And don't complain about it and let people enjoy it. Simple. How is this not hard to comprehend and understand? It really is that simple. Clearly, this is an impossible concept to get through to people anymore. Sounds like that's not on me. I loved the gameplay. I really did. I did. It was just shit ton of fun. Fucking loved it. Fucking loved it. The most fun Final Fantasy game I've played in years even. Or at least since 15. That's a completely different subject. Let's not get into that. Probably even more so than FF15. I'd say I enjoyed this game far more than FF15 in terms of gameplay, mostly because the magic doesn't have bullshit friendly fire. Who came up with that? Different topic, different game. That game had problems, though, admittedly and obviously, FF15. This one did not, in terms of gameplay. As far as I'm concerned, anyway. Just me. There are cooldown type gimmicks as well, like in the Xenoblade franchise. Because the guy that made it, Yoshi P, mostly is responsible for the massive success of Final Fantasy XIV, the MMORPG. Those games are mostly known for cooldowns. What were you expecting? What were you expecting? Whatever. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. Just me, okay? Just me. Yes, there aren't party members outside of the AI ones. You can't control other party members. You can't play as Sid or Jill or even Best Doggo Torgal. Boy, if only they had done that. Whatever. So what? So what? Who cares? Seriously. Who cares? I don't. I don't. If it helps you sleep at night to tell yourself that I'm literally the only one who feels that way, good for you. Good for you. That's not the case, but good for you. You want to play as multiple characters? Go play the FF7 Remake trilogy. Yes, I'm serious. I don't want to hear this bullshit, sorry. Don't want to hear it. Don't want to hear it. Mostly I didn't struggle in this game, and I even played the entire game, all of it, on the normal difficulty, like I mentioned at the start, action-based. There were, and are, I don't care, problems, though. On 3, not 1, not 2, but yes, 3 separate occasions. I hope you're ready, but nobody ever is. Maybe you should stop listening at this point. That's my suggestion, anyway. Okay. Bahamut. That icon boss fight. Outside of the 2 boss fights and the Rising Tide DLC, boy, it's almost like I don't even really need to tell you anymore. This was the worst fight in the game. Who thought a timer was a good idea? Seriously. I want to know. I want to know who thought a timer in a boss fight was a good idea. I would like a word with them. Now, admittedly, some of it was my fault, and I am literally admitting that to you. But a timer is fucking ridiculous, I'm sorry, and there's no excuse for that bullshit. There's no excuse. Get it the fuck out. Get it the fuck out. That was the only boss in main game that I had a problem with. Just one. Just one. So we have to talk about the DLC boss fights. The Echoes of the Fallen final boss, notice that I'm not giving names here. It wasn't that bad, actually. It wasn't that bad. It only took me 2 attempts. And the failed attempt, guess what? It was my fault. And my fault alone. And again, I'm admitting that to you. Fine. Fine. I can accept that. I am literally sitting here accepting it. But the final 2, you heard that. Not 1. 2, as in more than one, bosses in Rising Tide are utterly asinine, too fucking ridiculous, difficult bullshit. That's what it is. That's what it was. I don't give a fuck if you think the game was too easy. Not everyone wants difficulty. Not everyone wants difficult bullshit, motherfucker. It ruins an experience, which is exactly what it did for me. Get this difficult bullshit out, seriously. I'm getting tired of having to talk about it. Seriously, I'm getting tired of having to talk about it. Get it the fuck out. To make it worse, it was back-to-back bullshit. What the fuck? Seriously. Literally no excuse for this bullshit either. I can accept one in each DLC. I could have accepted that. But 2 and back-to-back? How about no? How about no? How about don't be difficult asinine bullshit? There's an option for ya. The boss fight before Leviathan is too chaotic. I'm sorry, it just is. The first failed attempt was because it was too chaotic. And too small of a window to get attacks in. I'm sorry, I don't have 0.5 second reaction time. Is that literally the time? No, but you get the point. It's too small. It's too small. No excuse for this bullshit. If there is a plastered definition of pure asinine, pathetic, too fucking ridiculous bullshit, it's Leviathan. It's Leviathan. Remember the timer from Bahamut? You remember that bullshit? Oh, it's back. And it's far worse. It's far worse. Who thought this was a good idea? I would like to strangle them. Here's some advice, Square Enix, which you won't fucking take. Stop listening to your community, quote unquote, and your fans. Because fans don't know shit about shit. And yes, that includes me. They don't know shit about shit. Don't do the difficult bullshit anymore. Don't do it. Because I'll keep talking about it until you do stop doing it. Period. End of story. Pathetic and no excuse for this. Not everyone wants difficult bullshit. You want that shit? Go play Souls-likes. Not for me. Not for me. So overall, God, man. Overall, due to the asinine, too fucking ridiculous bullshit, have I hammered in the point yet? My experience was mostly ruined when it mattered most. Right at the end of the game. Look, yes, all the shit that I got from the DLC made me mostly squash the final boss of the main game. So it was worth it. I never said it wasn't worth it. When did I say that? But there's just no excuse for this. There's no excuse. The entire game and the entire experience was so goddamn good. It was so goddamn good. It really was. Only to be ruined by asinine, pathetic, no fucking excuse for it, bullshit, difficult boss fights. And the Rising Tide DLC. I really do hope I got my point across at this point because I'm trying really damn hard to ram it into your head. The game was a 9.5 for me. For 85% of the game. And then this shit happens. What the fuck? Seriously. What the fuck? So now, a certain game that I played near the beginning of the year called AI the Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative actually has a chance at the end of the year. How much of a chance? Who knows? Who knows? It's going to be extremely hard for me to honestly say it was better just because of some bullshit difficult boss fights that should have never been there in the first place. But I'm just saying it shouldn't have even been close. And because of it, it now is. Hey, at least things are interesting now, I guess. But is that really what should be the case? I think you know the answer to that. Here's your bullshit Metacritic. Both of this is wrong. It's at least a 9. My specific score is a 9.2 out of 10. Remember what score I gave AI Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative? But are scores really important? Are they? Look. This game lapped everything that I played this year thus far, up to this point. That's the truth. It's lapped everything. Am I really going to be able to convince myself to say the AI Somnium Files Nirvana Initiative is better than Final Fantasy XVI just because of some bullshit boss fights that should have never happened in the first place when the majority of the game was a fucking amazing experience? I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. It's August. Considering how much shit changes anymore, there's a lot of time between now and after Thanksgiving, United States Thanksgiving, which is when I start making these finals decisions mostly. It's a lot of time. It's about 3 months. We'll see. I'm just saying, as of right now, as of me recording this, I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. And once it gets to that point, I don't think I'll be able to do it then either. But considering how things change, you just never know. And that's kind of the problem. There should have been no doubt. There should have been no doubt. There should have been no doubt. This shouldn't have even been close. Good job, complaining motherfuckers. You did this. Thanks for that. Go fuck yourselves, seriously. Next is Bayonetta 2 on Switch 2. No, I'm not doing that on purpose. Second game of the franchise. Maybe I'll start liking it. Who knows? It's short. Again, it's only a 10-ish hour game. And just like with the first game, I'll be playing Bayonetta 2 on some kind of easy mode because the games are too hard. Unless I play them on an easy mode. So that knowledge by itself should tell you how much of a chance this game has. Okay. So, yeah. That's all I got for you. Yeah, don't know what else to say. It's a fucking great game. Take out the bullshit, ridiculous boss fights, and there'd be no doubt. Just saying. This is Mega Champ saying next time I'll be providing you with more unlimited guidance. You may hear from me sooner than Bayonetta 2 full thoughts if they put out a demo for Phantom Blade Zero. If that happens, or if there's something similar for Control Resonant, then I'll probably stream that game and then put the VOD on YouTube. So if one of those things happen, you'll see something from me sooner. But I don't know. I never really know. They always announce this thing last minute, so the next time you'll see me will be either Phantom Blade Zero demo, Control Resonant demo, or Bayonetta 2 full thoughts. Bye. Thanks, fan base. God, fan bases are just so great. You people don't know shit about shit. Okay, we're done. Bye.